All right, time now for Ask the Expert, and Colleen Lyle Real Estate is in the house today. There's our phone number. If you have any questions for Colleen, 789-6559, extension 2803. You can send an email, ottawa.morning@ctv.ca, or message us those questions on our Facebook page, CTV Ottawa Morning Live. So you want to sell your house, but that's as far as it goes for you. Selling a house can be stressful, sure, especially if you're putting it on the market and you don't know what you need to do to get that house sold, and you want to get top dollar for it. Well, luckily, Colleen is here. She's going to give us all the information we need to know in today's Ask the Expert. We're at that time of year. I mean, it seems to be that time of year all year round.
Yes.
But this, we're really getting into the ramp-up time, right?
We are. We're getting, even though it doesn't feel like it today, we are hitting the spring market. It really kind of kicks in after the March break. So we're seeing now a lot more people talking about selling. So
we're going to walk our viewers through step by step what they need to do. The first being getting pre-approved for financing. So before that sign goes up on your front lawn, you have a little bit of work to do.
You absolutely do. I think it's really important to look at the numbers. And, you know, not everybody's a numbers person, but it's really important to talk to your bank and figure out what is happening with the fact of, because when you go to sell, you need to go somewhere else. And so we need to look at your financing and know exactly what that looks like in your back pocket.
Yeah, what you can afford really matters. You can't go you can't go out there until you know. Don't sell before you qualify. What does that mean?
So it's really important in the fact that not only do you know what you can afford, but also the fact that you have to know exactly what you qualify for. What does the annual and monthly mortgage payments look like? Are you going to do it weekly, bi-weekly? And are you looking at a fixed rate? You know, and also I really strongly encourage people to look at the numbers and put in the budget the fact that interest rates, even though they won't go up today, they will be going up. So they need to be smart about that.
So this would be if you're going to sell a house, but yet you're also moving into something new, right?
Absolutely.
So you're kind of looking at the equation for both. It's not just what you do to your home to sell it, but what your next home purchase is going to look like.
Absolutely.
That might also help you that might also depend then on how much you want to ask for your house, or should that not come into play?
That is definitely not into play.
Totally different things.
It's a totally different thing, and we'll talk about that in the upcoming segments where we're going to be talking about pricing it smartly.
Okay, so research housing market. This is key, isn't it? You can't ask for too much for your house if that's just not what the houses in your neighborhood are selling for?
Well, this is more of the fact of where you're going to go, because the fact is that when you look at your financing and you find out, A, if you have any penalties if you move your mortgage,
okay.
B, if you can afford the next home, and then C, when you're looking at moving, can you actually afford to move into the neighborhood you want?
Okay.
And even bigger than that, not only is it about money, but the neighborhood that you like. Let's say people really want to live in an old vintage home. Well, an old vintage home, unless it's had a lot of work done, it does not come with an open concept kitchen. So you have to really sit down and look at what you want to do, look at the numbers that work for you, as well as look as where you are going to go. Mm-hmm. So whether you're downsizing or upsizing, the fact is that all that thought process has to be done before you even talk about selling your home.
Those are big questions, and that's a lot that you've got to put out there. Would you recommend people already meeting with a realtor at this point, or is that something you do as a family before you get to the realtor?
Absolutely, but also as a family, figure out is it more important to have a really big yard, because then you're not necessarily moving to the glebe.
Right.
You know, then you're looking at maybe acreages or some of the older areas that have bigger yards like Bell's Corners,
sure.
right? So it's really important to kind of sit back and create a plan and then go into your further meetings, right?
And so you also say call your lender to check the payoff.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't realize that there may be penalties if you move. Mm. And that's why I really strongly encourage people, whenever they're talking to their mortgage broker or their bank, that they really, open that document like an onion and figure out, is it portable or is it not? And are there any fees in breaking your mortgage? I remember years ago when I did one of my first moves, my penalty was actually really, really high. And so that really caught us back. So it's really important to ask the hard questions to your financial people to know exactly what will happen to your mortgage, as well as if it's portable or if there will be any fees.
Okay, a lot of good, important information, Colleen. And there's a lot more to ask her. And if you have any questions you'd like to ask her, she's here today. So send us those questions. 789-6559, extension 2803, or ottawa.morning@ctv. Markets in Ottawa, and she can answer those questions for you. And so it's a busy time of year, Colleen. We're talking about if you want to sell your house, if you're looking to buy a house, and we're going through some of the things that you say is like your best advice. Determine how much your home is worth. This is an important key element.
It is. It's not necessarily the first, but it's definitely one of the most important. Because like any marketing thing that you sell, anything that you sell on the market, you need to price it well. And therefore, a lot of people are thinking, well, I don't want to give away my home, I don't want to give away my home, and have a tendency to want to list their home a little bit higher. Mm-hmm. But what that has a tendency to do is have their home sit on the market a little bit longer than what is comfortable. So what we talk about is price smart. You know, really look at the comparables and look at what is truly your true market value, and then you go into tougher negotiations.
Who's pricing your home for you? Who's making that decision?
Well, definitely a realtor who knows your neighborhood is someone we encourage you to talk to. You know, because at the end of the day, it's not even what your neighbor homes sell for or what even an appraiser says. At the end of the day, as a realtor, we can look at what the comparables are, whether you have upgraded kitchens and bathrooms, do you have a finished basement, etc. So it's really important to price your home well so that it sells well.
Is it a bad sign if you see a house sitting on the market too long? Does that raise red flags for one reason or another?
It can, and it may even be a false red flag. And that's what we often try and get our clients to understand. Because if your home, let's say, is worth $500,000 and you priced it at $526,000, at a certain point you will have to drop. And sometimes that drop may be bigger than what you could have got for it if you priced it at the proper $500,000. So it really is crucial to price well.
And you say that because we're seeing multiples. So you priced it at $500,000 and 2 people, 3 people, 12 people, as I know you've experienced with your team C, they all start fighting for that house, and the next thing you know, maybe end up with that $526,000 when it's all said and done.
Absolutely, and and it's at the end of the day, the market will definitely dictate, the value of the home.
Yeah.
So you never ever give away your home. The worst thing that you can do is have your house sit on the market, especially, and have people turn away because it is now considered a dated listing.
That we don't want. Some other advice you say, establish a smart price, as you just talked about, and that being finding the price that is right for your home. And what goes into, how does a realtor determine what the price should be?
We really look at the neighborhood comparables, and you can't, a perfect example is that there are certain neighborhoods that live in silos. Mm-hmm. And when I look at different neighborhoods, you can't compare, Orleans to Stittsville. You can't run it that way. Also, let's say in the Stittsville market, you can't compare one neighborhood like Crossing Bridge to an older neighborhood that has the bigger lots. Right. So the fact is that you have to really look at, speak to someone who knows the market, and as well as interview them in a way that, go ahead and ask them the tough questions. How much business do you do?
Yeah.
How many homes have you sold? Because then you can feel that you're comfortable with where you are going with the market.
And they should be doing that research for you, shouldn't they? I know from personal experience, we tried to sell a house once that we were asking $15,000 more than the same model house just a few streets over in the same neighborhood sold for. And when we found out, and our realtor said, sorry to tell you guys, but that house sold for this amount. You're asking $15,000 more. Buyers are savvy, and they're going to do their research too, and they're not going to take that house for that much more when they know that's the lower price is what it's going for.
And I find as well that some people have the opinion that, well, okay, I'm going to list my house for that $15,000 more, and we'll just negotiate. The fact is that us Canadians, We are too polite to offer lower prices, but people don't come to the door. You need people to come into the door in order to start that interest base.
Okay.
So even if you're pricing high, then no one's going to come in.
Okay.
And so some people go, well, I'm very flexible with my price. You got to get them in the door before we even get an offer in on paper.
And that's key. So a big part of that is staging your home.
Yes, and I'm actually a little surprised. I was talking to a potential client on the weekend at my open house, and she refused. She says, absolutely not, no one's going to stage my home. Well, I'm sure we have all looked on the internet and seen pictures that are not favorable. And so it is really important to stage your home. And I'm not talking magazine worthy, but the fact is that people have to be able to see themselves in that home and see something clean and pristine.
Which means removing those personal items, making any upgrades that you have to do, and making it, like you say, something that other people would see themselves in. What about a pre-inspection? How important is that?
It can be. It depends on your home and how old your home is. But what we do find is that during an inspection, depending on what kind of buyer has actually an offer on your home, they may scare easily. And for someone like myself, and we don't find foundation cracks a big deal, but for a new buyer who might be in the hands of maybe even an inexperienced realtor, the fact is that something like that may scare them away, and then you have already put your house on hold for maybe a week or two. Also, pre-inspection is really good for country properties.
Okay.
If you're looking at your septic and your well, get your well test done. Maybe do a septic inspection so that already you kind of know what you're going into.
All right.
So it arms yourself with more information.
More to get to with Colleen. Stick around, don't go anywhere. There's our information. If you have any questions for her, we're back after this. Coming in from Mike. Mike's on the line. Good morning, Mike. What's your question for Colleen?
For you, I was just listening to you two talking about comparables and upgrading kitchens and bathrooms and so on. We live in Kemptville in the Equinel, sorry, I don't know if I should mention this, but Equinel Golf Course, and we've done all that work inside the house, but we've done extensive work outside in our yards, front and back. And the impression I'm getting, the real estate market doesn't take that into consideration, which is so disappointing to my wife and I, because we've spent a lot of money in our yards as well as inside the house. So I'm not sure how to feel about our house pricing, because it doesn't seem to. Obviously, we have a personal interest in what we've done, and we're thinking it isn't reflected in the price that our house is listed at. So, Thank you.
What do you think, Colleen? Does what we do on the outside of our homes, all that landscaping, because that, as Mike says, we know can be very expensive.
Absolutely, and I would definitely take it into consideration. Obviously, Equinel is a newer neighborhood, so I'm sure that Mike's home inside is very up to date, and he doesn't need to do any updates on the inside. And definitely, landscaping is something that we completely take into consideration in the fact that you'll have that wow factor, and someone may choose Mike's home over a home that hasn't, that might have done just a simple deck, right? Or doesn't even have a fence. What I strongly encourage people to do, though, if they know that they're moving within 2 or 3 years, is the fact that, again, talk to a realtor so that you don't over-improve your home. Okay. And Mike, I can definitely appreciate the fact that for me, I'm all about the outdoors.
Yeah, that would be a big selling point for me. Yeah. But I mean, everyone's different, right? That's why some people might want something more inside, but for others, that backyard might, if it looks like something out of a magazine, that might be a major selling point.
Absolutely. Yet, adding the price of a fence to the listing price doesn't actually work.
It doesn't.
So that's where I strongly encourage people. I definitely can appreciate that he probably has a beautiful Shangri-La backyard, but we probably can't do dollar to dollar value on it.
Okay. We have an email coming in. Thanks, Mike, by the way. Appreciate your call there this morning. This email coming in via email. This is from Luke. He's asking, my house is paid for and I would like to sell and downsize to a smaller home. What's best? Sell my home first, then find a new one, or buy and sell at the same time? I bet you get this question a lot.
We do, and unfortunately with Luke, it's more of trying to figure out where he wants to go. I mean, the fact that his home is paid for, then he's not really carrying two mortgages, right? Yet it depends, does he need the down payment? Does he need the flow from his current home into his downsized home, right? So we need to look at that. We also need to look at where Luke is located, because some areas are moving very, very fast. And we could sit down and say, okay, well, I can see, Luke, that your current home might only take 20 days to sell, or maybe even less. And depending on where Luke wants to go, we find that the smaller homes in the price range of under $500,000, those ones in the city of Ottawa right now are the ones that are moving a lot quicker.
So a couple of variables there that maybe for Luke would be best to sit down with a realtor and plug those questions to him or her, and that way you can get an exact answer, because you're right, like every scenario is just a little different depending on what you're looking for. Colleen, thank you so much. As always, your expertise is appreciated, and there's Colleen's information. If you have any questions, folks, for her, give her a call, 755-2278, on the web, ColleenLyle.com.